everyone, welcome back to a new video. I'm Carl here at carlstaceyguitartuiton, and this is another new video idea that I had. A light bulb moment came to me of the day. I was like, why am I not doing album listings and ratings and reviews and song kind of track listings and things like that, alright? Because obviously, as all the videos on my channel here, it's all stuff that I love, it's all stuff I'm passionate about, and I love everything that's kind of, obviously I teach guitar, so there's going to be plenty of educational videos, but I really just love talking about music and bands and iconic albums and things like that in general, okay? So this idea came to me the other day and I thought, why not give it a go? So here we are. So if you click this video, I'm assuming you enjoy Sum 41, you listen to Sum 41's music, you followed their career, maybe you're like me and you kind of found them at a really young age and grew up listening to them and it's really changed and impacted your life overall. That's what we're going to get into. So I thought we'd do, in my own kind of experience and opinion, what I believe to be the kind of ranking and list order of all of Sum 41's albums, okay? And what it's more of just an opportunity, a chance for me to kind of say what I feel about these things and my experience with these songs and these albums and my connections to these songs and these albums, alright? So, we're going to jump straight in. This is going to be from 9 worst to 1 best. None of these albums are bad. None of these songs are bad. This is a 10 out of 10 band for me. Always has been, always will be, and all the songs on these albums are as well. Minus some that I maybe don't enjoy as much, but you know, I never judge a band for trying different things or new things, so it's cool. If you see me looking off to the side, I've got my little notes over here for the order of everything we're gonna do. So, number 9, and this is the bottom of the list of the albums for me, and that is going to be Underclass Hero. So, the reason for that, this album came out at a time where I'd been binge listening to Chuck, the previous album, on repeat a lot of the time. That was one of the albums that really got me into the band and really stood out for me from the band, kind of musically. And we'll talk about that one later as well. But I just feel like the reason I can't rate this one or rank this one any higher in this list here is for a few reasons. And that is because sonically, I don't feel like this is the band's best work. I feel like it becomes quite repetitive. The guitar tones, the songwriting kind of structures, the song styles, things like that become quite repetitive on this album. I feel like the album's got too many songs on it. Maybe it's just because they feel too repetitive to me. It does have songs on there that I love, like With Me, for example. Unbelievably good song. Underclass Hero is not a bad song. There's a few others that aren't coming to mind right now that I do actually quite enjoy. Walking Disaster, another great one. But as an overall album, start to finish, if you hit play, let it run through, let it run out, I just don't feel like it's as strong as so many of the other albums. And I've recently read Derek's book and he was talking about how he was going through a lot of changes in his life at the time and his marriage with Avril and things like that, and he kind of said how that kind of fell into the songwriting for this album and kind of part of the reason why it maybe wasn't as creatively interesting and unique and things like that, alright? Number 8 is going to be, whether you class this as an album or not, it was kind of officially released more as an EP, but it's a half an hour long. In my mind, anything that's 30 minutes above, it warrants an album. And for the sake of the discography, I'm just going to include it in the list, alright? So, Half Hour of Power. Literally the only reason why I have this in my own personal kind of listing so low down is because I heard all of the kind of later Sum 41 albums before I listened to this one. And so naturally, because obviously they were so young at the time and the recordings were a lot more raw, it's just, I don't know, experience-wise, it didn't hit me or impact me as much as it probably should or could have if I heard it in a different circumstance, different situation. Not only that, the reason it's down here as well is because obviously the band was super young at the time, 16, 17, 18, roughly around there, I believe. So naturally, they're not going to be the best songwriters, they're not going to be the best performers or musicians or singers or anything like that. So I just feel like the flair and the creative, unique concept of Sum 41 is definitely there in the songs and the vibe and the energy and the recording and everything. But it was just the beginning, it was just the start, it was just the infancy of where they could go and why they could push and take those concepts and those ideas. So for those reasons alone, I can't rank it any higher in my list here. All right. Number 7 is a newer one. All right, and that's going to be 13 Voices. So I believe, yeah, this was the first album back after they kind of took that extended break. The first album back with Dave Brownsound on guitar as well, is the bigger like peace band that they became. The first album back after Derek went through his whole health problems and struggles and alcohol abuse and all of these sorts of crazy wild things. This album's great. Like I've said, all of these albums are great. All of these songs are great. It's just whether they impact me as much as some of the other ones do. And for this one particularly, I just feel like, again, lots of great songs and singles on the album, generally speaking. But as an album, front to back, start to finish, it didn't impact me as much as it maybe could have or should have. I don't know if it was just the period of time that I was in my life at the time, that it just didn't impact me because of age or what was going on in my life. But I've since obviously revisited it and listened to it a good few times, and I feel like as an album, there is better Sum 41 albums, start to finish. I feel like I say, a lot of the songs are solid and really good, but it's not what I want to see or like to hear from Sum 41 overall. And I just felt like, I remember feeling a little bit kind of disappointed when this album came out on like, I thought it was going to be better. I don't know. Maybe it was just overhyped at the time. Who knows? But anyways, moving on. Alright, silly me, editor Carl here. Somehow, some way, I missed off Order in Decline when I was filming this actual full video that you're watching right now. So I am quickly filming this and chucking it in because I need to get this edited and up for next week to keep in the schedule. So Order in Decline is going to be number 6 in this list. Again, really solid album. 13 Voices and Order in Decline for me are very similar. Obviously, they came out not too far apart. They were both sort of the comeback albums for Sum 41. They both feature a very kind of similar style and similar kind of songwriting style. So I really enjoy both of them for different reasons. I do think and I do believe, hence why it's higher on the list for me, that Order in Decline is an overall much better album. I much prefer the songwriting, the style, the guitar solos, the riffs. I just think it's much better put together as an album start to finish. I believe that the band kind of getting back together and Dave Brownsound joining again and kind of that first album, 13 Voices, was sort of like the trial run for that almost. And then obviously they did years of touring off the back of that. And I really feel like the final lineup of the band before they broke up, and the final lineup of the band that put all these last kind of 4 albums out, really came into their own and really kind of gelled together around the period of Order in Decline, basically. So you can really hear it in the album and in the songs, and you can really see it in the performances from sort of that time period onwards, I believe, as well. And I've seen them live a couple of times with that lineup, and I can say that is exactly the case. So really solid album, really good songs. I just believe there is still better for me personally and where I'm at with these albums, okay? To number 5. This might be an unpopular opinion. This might be a bit of a divisive one here. I'm going to put number 5 as Does This Look Infected? Again, unbelievable album, nostalgic album, iconic album, great front to back, lots of solid songs on there, and it's the first album that Sum 41 like really stepped out and started exploring different styles and genres and going a little bit heavier, a little bit darker, pushing those boundaries a little bit, which is obviously amazing for the band to explore, and especially considering where they went with it later down the line. The biggest thing for me that holds this album back from being higher in my own personal rankings and listings here is, it's a bit of a ridiculous one, but as a music guy, I kind of become biased to these things. It's the overall sound of the mix and master of the album. I feel like it's just so much weaker than pretty much all the other albums, to be honest with you. I think that's the weakest kind of mix mastered album, in my opinion anyways, especially compared to All Killer No Filler, which came before it. And I feel like that lets a lot of the impact of what the songs should have down, and the album as a whole down a little bit. Again, reading Derek's book, I know he was talking about how they were kind of forced by the manager of someone at the time to like re-record all the guitar tracks because apparently there was an issue, but there wasn't an issue. So maybe that first recording and that first version was actually better. Who knows? I guess we'll never really know or find out. But solid album, really good album. like it's still high up on my list. It's still within the top 5. I love this album. It's just some other aspects hold it back for me a little bit. Number 4 is going to be the newest album, Heaven and Hell. All right. So again, really good album. I love the fact that as the final album, they decided to do a double album, so give us like as much songs, as much material as possible, especially considering one is one of their styles, the kind of punk rock, pop punk thing, one being the other style, the hard rock, kind of more metal lenient type thing. So we got the best of both worlds there, and I really feel like they did the fans a solid with that, because obviously they know how much we love every aspect and sound and all of that sort of stuff of the band. So I really love that. I love the artwork. I love the vibe. I love a lot of the songs. The reason this isn't higher is purely just the top 3 for me are just kind of nostalgic bangers. All right. That's kind of the only reason. This one's the newest, so it hasn't lived in my brain or in my life long enough yet to maybe crawl up the list or anything like that, but it's still absolutely solid, and I'm glad it's the last one that they decided to put out and the last one they decided to do. I do believe some of the songs on the heavier half let me down a little bit, especially the Rolling Stones cover. I don't feel like we really needed that. Could have done without it. And then some of the pop punk rock songs on the first half are a little bit kind of, I don't know, a little bit left to be desired at times, I feel like, but generally really good and really solid. Number 3, so we're getting there now. We're getting into the top 3s where it gets good, all right? So again, this could be an unpopular opinion. I don't feel like it is, though, because I've seen a lot of kind of fellow Sum 41 fans online say otherwise, but Screaming Bloody Murder, I believe this album is criminally underrated. I know that the band themselves feel that way about this album. A lot of fans feel that way about this album. I feel like the only reason this album didn't impact people as much is purely because of timing. I think it was released at the wrong time for the band. I believe, again, reading Derek's book, it was a weird kind of rocky time period with the record label. They didn't really market or push it as much. It was just before the band imploded and Derek went through what he went through. So obviously he was having his own personal struggles, and I believe that the tours at the time weren't really doing too well either. Plus, it was released during that down period of rock music between like 2010 and 2020, where like apparently no one listened to or cared about rock music for a while there in the industry and in kind of the mainstream and things like that, which isn't really the case anymore thanks to things like TikTok. But this album's solid. It's got the best of everything and anything you'd ever ask for in a Sum 41 album. It's got the dark stuff, the more upbeat stuff, really good songwriting, really good lyric concepts, things like that. It's just really, really solid, and I believe it deserves more of a chance for people, alright? Number 2 is going to be All Killer No Filler. There is better albums, alright, Sum 41 wise, musically. So for example, like Scream Bloody Murder, Does This Look Infected, Heaven and Hell, 13 Voices Order and Decline. All those albums are musically better, infinitely better than this album, because again, this was released so early on in their career. They were still really young, still finding their feet a little bit. Obviously it's very punk rock, very pop punk lenient and sounding, which was perfect for the time. The only reason this is number 2 for me is purely because of, again, the impact it had on me and the nostalgia I have attached to this album. It just came out at the right time. I was the right age. Finding music, finding what sounded cool, looked cool, In Too Deep, Fat Lip. All of those were the songs that were available to me that I was watching on Kerrang back in the day and hearing on radios and stuff. And I'm sure if you're watching this video or you're a similar age to me, you'll understand that and feel the same way and had those same experiences as well. That brings us finally to number 1, the holy grail of Sum 41 albums, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people are on my side with this one too, and that is Chuck. Alright, I love everything about this album. I love the artwork. I love the story behind why it's called Chuck, which you can research and watch online, of course. I love this style and this direction of Sum 41, that kind of grungier, almost a little bit of hardcore punk, a little bit of metal, still a little bit of that pop punk in there. But also this album does experiment a lot with a lot of different sounding songs and kind of effects, and just musically it's very interesting, it's very unique, it's very standalone. It explores a lot of different ideas and concepts, and all of Dave Brownstown's guitar solos like some of the best on this album. The riffs are awesome. It's got the emotional tracks like Pieces, which is awesome as well. And finally, it just really impacted me the most. It was the right album at the right time in the right place to kind of scratch all of the itches that I had, because I always loved metal, I always loved pop punk. I was always kind of straddling that line between, and I didn't ever quite know which one I wanted to do more or I enjoyed more. This album was that perfect in between for me that I really loved and really enjoyed, and I really truly believe that it's part of the reason why I am the guitarist I am today and why I write and perform the riffs that I do today as well, is massively thanks to this album. So what's your ratings and kind of orders and listings in terms of all of the Sum 41 albums? Where do you stand on things like that and the band in general? I would love to know. Let's discuss it down below. That would be awesome. Thank you very much once again, and I hope to see you in another video soon, yeah?